Cat. It's Maximus here, this time with a quick review of the Bosch. I guess this is the 24-piece bit set. Bosch always has weird part numbers. I actually believe that's it right there. The reason I picked these up, these are a 24-bit set. What was surprising is that the blue box, Lowe's, and these were on sale, and there seemed to be a loss leader because all the other Bosch bit sets were full price. And what I was noticing is two of these little number 2 Phillips 1-inch bits were $3.50 on the shelf for two of those little guys. For these longer ones here, these little 2-inch Phillips bits, number 2 Phillips, those were $5. They were $2.50 per bit on the shelf. And I'm thinking, okay, so I can get two of those, and I can get two of these for $8.50. And I look over on a yellow tag, and there's this whole 24-piece set with the case for $9.98. So the choice was obvious. I was like, really, 4 bits? Or for $1.50, I can get another 20 bits. I mean, even though it's like a loss leader, I think just to get you in there, it's still a little bit outrageous. I mean, it kind of shows you the kind of margins that are on bits, just like printer ink. These things, you know, they make way more money selling you these things that wear out than they do selling you the tools. And they charge a premium for them. This 24-piece set on sale for $9.98, I think, is definitely worth it. That was half off, so it was definitely a good deal. These Bosch bits are made pretty well. Actually, let's go and cut to a couple little action shots here. Okay, just for the funsies of it, we're going to use one of the 2-inch bits. We're going to use a 12-volt DeWalt brushless impact. We're going to use the big 20-volt DCD 887 impact. And then just for giggles, just to show a difference, we'll also use this Milwaukee half-inch drive corded impact. I custom upgraded, so it probably is putting out around 320 foot-pounds of torque. Just to show the bit can deal with it, and just to kind of show the difference between high-speed, really fast spinning impacts, but may not have that much force between hammer blow, and a big impact, which actually spins slower, but has a whole lot more force between each hammer blow. So let's just go ahead and do that. We'll start with the 12-volt here, make sure I can get everything relatively... This is a Douglas fir block of wood. That should be good. Here we are at the 12 volt. And get this thing. Not too bad. Here we go with the big 20 volt, the big 887. We'll go and put this screw right here, get it started nice. That was pretty fast. Let's see how fast that is compared to the corded impact. Anyway, this is the Milwaukee 3071. These are actually some of the most amazingly engineered impacts I've ever seen out of any impact wrench. Someday I'll do a teardown on one of these, but there's actually, and I custom upgraded this one, but there's 16 rolling bearings in this impact wrench. I will mention, most people, when they have impacts, any impact that you ever see, air or electric, there's just going to be a touch of spindle play side to side and maybe a little bit of play in and out. These Milwaukees are the only ones that are dead tight. The spindle on this is just as tight as it is on a Milwaukee drill. It does not go side to side any detectable amount, and it does not go in and out any detectable amount. Okay, enough being overexcited about this impact. Let's go ahead and see how something like this does driving a 3-inch screw. Ah, that was terrible. It does not have variable speed, so that's going to be the hardest part about this, is just trying to get it going. You know, I drove about 10 of these in before I made the video. As soon as I start the camera, I can't get one to go in straight to save my life. It just hammered a couple times at the very end. It was just like putting it in with a drill. So I'm not exactly, well, I used to not realize exactly the point of just doing a quick demonstration like that. Those were hardened drywall screws. Let's take a quick close-up look at these. One thing I did find interesting, well, I'm talking two things at once. People have mentioned about other bit reviews that they just wanted to see how much the bit, you know, appeared to wear driving a few screws, and since this bit actually was slipping and was stripping out one of those screws, it's a good example to see how tough the steel is. But first, let's just do a nice little close-up look at these. I've always kind of liked these things. These are like little shrink wrap, heat shrink little labels that they put on those bits, and so it's always kind of neat because they're just these little microscopic labels. Pretty nice set, you know. It comes with the most common stuff. Several number 2 Phillips and number 1 Phillips, one number 3 Some various Robertson and the most common types of Torx or star drives, and a little extension, which I actually think is kind of neat because this extension here is using the same system, a neck down area. Now, I did a review with the Harbor Freight Hercules bits where I did a bunch of torque testing, and I'm not going to torque test these because we learned that what this is, these turn down sections are torsion beams, and they actually reduce the output by acting as a spring and absorbing some of the impact energy. But we can see that the shank gets much thicker on the bigger bits because obviously you'd be spending all your energy just twisting against the spring, so it's kind of a falsity about these. I really like, and I've learned about heavy duty bits. DeWalt, and they still sell these, makes these just full diameter shank Super Duty bits. These are ones that don't have very much torsion at all and really just deliver all the energy. And you really notice that with those impact drivers. You start using these bits that don't have that torsion section, and you'll find that work goes a lot faster. But I'm addicted to bits. So, of course, finally, after I've talked way too much, let's take a real close look. Let me actually zoom in just a few steps here so we can get even better look at this. So this is the bit. It had skidded, and we can see that it's actually not too chewed up. That's a real evidence, especially the drywall screws, because they are harder than a lot of other screws. When the bits start to slip like that, I've had low quality bits where it just totally chews up and destroys the end of the Phillips. You slip like that on a couple screws and you have to throw the bit away. This Bosch actually held up to that kind of abuse pretty well. It won't take a ton of that, but I'm actually pretty satisfied. That is a good steel. And obviously, it could take quite a few times. Not many, but probably 20, 30 times of that before this bit becomes unusable. But that's really a pretty impressive, not having it just totally blow out on that condition. So I do like them. I think they're a great steel. And as far as bits are concerned, I think these are going to be as competitive with any of the other brands. The Milwaukees, the DeWalts, Makitas, etc. So overall, as long as these are on sale for $10, I think this 24-piece set is definitely worth it. For $10, you're getting a pretty nice quality bit set with a well-selected variety. Some people do like these Bosch cases where you can snap and kind of customize them. I've always liked the DeWalt dovetail style just because they give you the ability to really pack a lot of bits in there. These little holders people like because they are easier to get bits in and out of. But if I can pop a bit in and out that easily, usually it means that pretty soon, well, they're not falling out, but you can see smacking it around, they are wanting to fall out. So it won't be too much time before they do fall out, and that's something that's a little disappointing just because I'd like them to hold in a little better. The other thing is this case isn't double-sided, and I would like that just because it would hold it better, even though they do use a metal hinge pin, which I will approve of. The other thing I should mention is even though it's easy to get in and out of, let me zoom out a little bit. This little latch here, super easy to work with, just shuts, but everybody knows if you're in a tool bag, something's going to hit this, and then this thing's eventually going to come open, and all sorts of stuff's going to get in there. So I kind of like the slide switch ones, and I see why manufacturers go with those is because they hold the box shut. This is something that is going to want to fall open on you because all it takes is this little thing just pushing on that, just a tiny little push, and this thing's flopping in the wind. One thing, before I forget to mention it, is they do have one really odd bit in here I've never really seen before. This is labeled as a P2R2, so a Phillips 2 and a square Robertson 2. And if we look at this thing, look at that. That is such an odd shaped bit. It's a Phillips bit that's been machined in such a way where it has these really flat sides, so it can also drive a Robertson or square head fastener. I thought, well, that's kind of an interesting idea. Many of those deck screws and so on actually have heads that are designed that can either be used with Phillips or square Robertson. And so this is kind of a take on the opposite, where this is a Phillips bit that can also drive a Robertson screw. So I thought, hey, that's at least forward thinking, and they're trying to set themselves apart at least a little bit by having a little unique bit. These bits actually don't always want to get in here quite as easily as they say that you can. Anyway, that was kind of the end of my jumbled review of these Bosch bits. I always have kind of a hard time really figuring out what to say about these bit sets. but wanted to do my 2 cents on the Bosches. I haven't done very many Bosch product reviews at all, so wanted to jump in on this and say, for $10 at Lowe's. I usually say blue box. I don't get any sponsorships from anybody, so I don't really give a whole lot of free advertising besides the specific products that I'm reviewing. It's a form of advertising, but I always tell people, if you can find this 24-piece set for even cheaper than $10 somewhere else, definitely go for it. But at Lowe's for $10, I think this is well worth it, and really pretty surprising that they're having this as a loss leader. Pretty cool. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.